The Women's World Cup generates $570 million. Impressive, but compare that to the Men's World Cup, which brings in a staggering $7.57 billion. When it comes to tickets, the difference is striking. Tickets for the Women's World Cup were 11 to 25 or even 40 times cheaper than for the Men's World Cup the year before. And the women's tournament had 1.5 million tickets available, half of what the men had the previous year. Yet the women's tournament only saw 66% attendance with those cheaper tickets. What's going on here? The average attendance for the National Women's Soccer League is around 5,500 per match. Some teams can draw up to 24,000, but that means some games have fewer than 1,000 fans. Compare that to Major League Soccer, where the average attendance is 24,000, 4 to 5 times more. But we all have watched debates on YouTube about equal pay in sports. Many women advocating for it admit they don't watch the matches themselves. They argue it's about equality, not fandom. But fans buy tickets, jerseys, watch games, and follow players on social media. So, the pay should be based on the revenue generated from these activities, not based on moral grounds. In sports, viewers pick what they find more interesting, and currently, that's men's sports. Compared to the many levels of men's football available on TV, women's football is lucky to get the attention it does with the skills they have. Equal pay sounds simple, but when we dig deeper, it's a complex issue with many layers. South Africa's women's soccer team, Banyana Banyana, made headlines recently by boycotting a friendly match against Botswana. They were upset about poor conditions and unfair pay. Even though FIFA promised $30,000 to each player in the Women's World Cup in 2023, that's not the full picture. South Africa's Football Association isn't giving its women's team any extra support. Compare this to the men's team, Bafana Bafana, who got a big reward for reaching the semi-finals in 2019. The women's team, which actually won the Africa Cup of Nations in 2022, got much less. And it's not just South Africa. Look at the U.S. women's football team. They've won the Women's World Cup more times than any other team, yet they were earning less than the U.S. men's team, which hasn't made it to the World Cup final since 1930. Does that seem right to you? No, right? But wake up to reality. It's not sexism, it's capitalism. And this is the age of capitalism. In our world, only profit talks. Men's football generates way more money. Ticket sales, TV rights, merchandise, you name it. All of it brings in millions, sometimes billions of dollars. Men's matches fill huge stadiums, attract massive TV audiences, and get big sponsorship deals. This money doesn't come from thin air. It's because millions of fans are willing to pay to watch men play. Women's football, on the other hand, doesn't bring in as much money. The stadiums aren't as full, the TV audiences are smaller, and the sponsorship deals are fewer. It's simple math. More money generated means more money to pay the players. Men's football is just more profitable, and in a capitalist world, that's what matters. So when men footballers get paid more, it's not because they're men. It's because their games bring in more money. It's about business, not bias. If women's football starts generating the same revenue, they should absolutely get the same pay. When we compare men's and women's football, we are missing the point. Some people say women's football is less skillful, while others argue that it should be viewed on its own merits. But they are different games after all. Women are generally shorter, lighter, and not as fast as men. A 2019 study from Norway even suggested that women's pitches, goalposts, and balls should be different sizes. This is because women's physical characteristics affect how the game is played. For example, women might use different tactics, like more long balling instead of the quick passes you see in men's games. Think about other sports for a moment. In athletics, women use lighter discuses and jump over shorter hurdles. Volleyball has a lower net for women, and in the Women's National Basketball Association, a lighter ball is used. This shows that different standards are already in place, but it's crucial to strive for gender equity. And one way to do this is through language and recognizing women's achievements. But let's keep ethics and fairness aside for a moment. The thing is, TV deals for men's football can be worth millions more than those for women's football. It's partly because men's football has a bigger following. More people watch the games, so TV networks are willing to pay a lot for the rights to show them. For example, the World Cup for men gets a lot more TV coverage, and as a result, generates higher revenue than the Women's World Cup. Even big brands are often seen sponsoring men's football teams. It's because top male players are seen as major influencers. They endorse all sorts of products, from sneakers to soft drinks, and this drives a lot of money into football. On the other hand, women's football is catching up, but the sponsorship deals are still not as big. Men's football matches usually draw bigger crowds. This means more ticket sales and more merchandise like jerseys and team gear. The larger fan base for men's football leads to higher revenues from ticket sales and merchandise. Think about the biggest football events you've ever heard of. The FIFA World Cup, for example, is a massive event that brings together billions of fans from around the world. The 2022 Men's World Cup final between Argentina and France was watched by an astounding 1.5 billion people. That's a huge number. It shows just how much people love men's football. On the other hand, the women's final raked in 263 million viewers. We have legends like Messi and Ronaldo in men's football. Their skills are unparalleled, and honestly, there's no comparison in the women's game. Even Carly Lloyd, a legend of the U.S. women's national team, shared one of her most embarrassing moments when her team lost to the FC Dallas boys U15 team. Yes, 15-year-old boys. Lloyd admitted this on social media. This wasn't a one-off incident either. Her team also lost to a youth Bayern Munich team. This shows a significant gap in skill and physicality between male and female players. When you see such disparities, it's hard to argue for equal pay. These boys were younger, yet stronger, faster, and bigger. Lloyd herself acknowledged this, saying boys always gave them a tough time, and it was great preparation. The physical differences are evident. A user even posted a photo showing the size difference between the women and the teen boys, pointing out that it's only natural for the boys to have an advantage. Biology plays a big role here, making male athletes generally stronger and faster. This isn't about one being better than the other. It's about understanding the unique strengths each brings to the game. Men generally have larger frames and greater physical strength than women. This isn't just about being bigger. It's about how this physicality translates to the field. Men can often hit the ball harder and run faster, making the game more dynamic and physically intense. Think of stars like Messi or Ronaldo. There's a level of power and speed that's hard to match. Both men and women have incredible skills, but they often shine in different areas. Men tend to excel in power and precision. Their shots are harder, their passes longer. Women, on the other hand, often focus more on finesse and control. Their game might not be as physically overpowering, but it's full of smart positioning. Men's soccer is often more aggressive. Teams take risks, pushing forward with the hope of scoring. Women's soccer can be more strategic, focusing on strong defense and careful plays. This difference in style can be traced back to the physical differences and how each gender best utilizes their strengths on the field. The differences between men and women in soccer are shaped by physical attributes, technical skills, game strategies, media coverage, and cultural perceptions. Men's soccer sees higher pay because of its longer history, larger fan base, and greater revenue generation. This isn't to say women's soccer isn't amazing. It's growing and gaining more recognition every year. But for now, the financial landscape reflects these long-standing differences. Men's soccer leagues, like the English Premier League, generate massive revenues. They have larger fan bases, higher attendance rates, and bigger investments. This translates to higher pay for male players. More media coverage means more sponsorship deals, which adds to the financial disparity. Historically, men's sports have always been more popular. This isn't necessarily fair, but it's a reality shaped by years of societal norms. Men's soccer has been around longer and has had more time to build its fan base and commercial success. While women's soccer is growing in popularity, it still doesn't receive the same level of investment or media attention. This affects everything from player salaries to the resources available for youth development. Investment and infrastructure also play a huge role. Men's football benefits from better training facilities, youth academies, and more funding. This investment means young male players get top-notch training from a young age. It's like building a strong foundation for future stars. Social and cultural factors are significant too. Men's sports get more media coverage, which means more commercial opportunities. Traditional views and stereotypes contribute to this imbalance. It's like a snowball effect. More media coverage leads to more interest and more money. While it might seem unfair, the large wage gap between male and female football players is largely driven by differences in revenue generation and fan engagement. If women's football can capture a larger audience and more sponsorship deals, we might see those numbers start to close. Until then, the financial differences are a reflection of the sport's current economic standing, not the talent or dedication of the players. What are your thoughts on these points? Share your opinions in the comments below.